Welcome to the OTA podcast where we discuss everything performance training. I'm Coach Chris Barnard. Let's get into it. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the OTA podcast. I'm your host, Coach Chris Barnard, founder of Overtime Athletes Performance Facility here in St. Petersburg, Florida. For today's podcast, what I wanted to discuss is a common question that I get. I know I've answered this before, so forgive me for those of you who have heard me ramble on about this before, but I commonly get a question about how to generate leads, specifically for athletes. And I figured I'd make a video of like how you can have like a perpetual endless flow of leads so that you can consistently be able to acquire new athletes inside your facility and continue to work with better, higher level clientele. So first and foremost, I'm going to answer this in a couple parts. Number one, what I think that somebody needs to understand when it comes to generating leads is most of the coaches that I talk to in performance sectors, you got to understand that referrals and word of mouth is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It will consistently always provide you new athletes. However, it is not scalable. It's only scalable to the level that you have as far as the amount of athletes that you have in your facility. So if you aspire to really be able to consistently pull from outside your actual base, you're going to need to have other efforts outside of that are consistently bringing new athletes in. Number one, what we'll discuss is going to be your actual offer, right? Usually, typically when I start to look at start to analyze a business or start to work with coaches, the number one thing that you can hold accountable to yourself and you can take full, complete ownership of is you might not have a strong enough offer. You might not have a strong enough lead magnet, right? What does a magnet do? It attracts something that's going to draw them into your services. So either A, you're not communicating your services well enough, or B, the thing that you're enticing them with, the offer, the lead magnet, to be able to draw them into your business, your service, your facility, it isn't strong enough. So the days of holding like a free session or a free week are kind of over with. What you need to do, right, is you need to really kind of dial in your message, your elevator pitch, and really truly understand what it is that makes you unique in your services. So let's say we're a performance gym, but your focus is, all across the board. I work with high school, all team sport high school athletes. So how do I kind of stand out in a market where other gyms are doing this? Well, maybe you put a tilt on speed and agility. Maybe you're the most explosive gym. Maybe you focus specifically on basketball athletes or baseball athletes. And you really need to feature that specific thing to be then create that magnet around. You got to be able to speak their language and kind of get into the shoes and get empathetic of the actual client or the potential parent of the client and figure out what they want, right? So having a very good understanding of what your offer is, right? What your specialty is, if you will, what makes you unique, right? And then being able to feature that as part of your actual magnet to get them in the door. So again, it's lazy now, and it's just the time has passed us by where we're offering one free session, one week free, 2 weeks free. Those things don't work anymore. You have to provide value in a way that's going to entice your ideal clientele in. And only you could speak to that because that's your specialty. So being able to provide something of value, but also not wasting your time, because you do have to make sure that it is efficient, right, for you to be able to provide this value and to be able to get athletes in. So we always want to provide a lot of value and be able to get them in. The next thing I'll mention kind of goes hand in hand with the first statement I made about in-house. Now, the way that I look at growing athletes in a gym is that I try to tell coaches that I look at it on a tier system. So for every 25 athletes that we add into our gym, I realize I bump up more opportunities for those athletes to then replenish. And what I mean by that is if I have 10 athletes, I only have really maybe 10 opportunities, if you think about it like that, for them to be able to bring their friends in. But if I have 100 athletes, I've increased my opportunity for me to market in-house and use tactics and strategies and touch points and talk points for me to get them to bring their friends in, right? So I've just simply increased. And one thing about athletes that I try to tell is, as far as in-house marketing and word of mouth marketing, that is the number one. Like once you get to over 100, they do such a better job than Gen Pop of being able to bring their teammates and their friends in. You're just going to get more out of that. What's up, coaches? Real quickly, let me go ahead and introduce you to Performance Coach U certification. Now, this is the certification / course that I put together for coaches who want to train athletes and not only get results, but also maximize profits in the private sector. The problem that I saw with a lot of these courses and certifications out there for coaches was that they provided a lot of information and not a lot of application. So I wanted to pull back the covers over 10 plus years of experience and show you the ins and outs of actually being in the trenches so that you get maximum results while also scaling your business. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and check out the link down below and you can get more information. When I tell coaches, like when you're pushing and you have these opportunities to push, whether that be summer and winter, and you're really driving to get into that next tier, whether it be 25, 50, 75, 100, or even beyond, the biggest thing you have to understand is the more that you make those pushes, like you don't drop back down, right? The higher you get, the drops and the ebbs and flows aren't as big in your clientele, your number of clientele. You're not going to go from 100 to 50, right? If you do this right, well, you might go 100, you might lose 10, but then you're going to gain 10. And so now you're in this tier, right? You've taken another leap in your overall revenue of your company. So those two activation points of winter and summer, we want to drive as much clientele as we possibly can to get to capacity, right? And then we maintain, just like we do in a training setting, like it's in season, if you will. So yes, in-house is 100% one of the more effective, but it's based on the amount of clientele you have, okay? The other two things that you need to understand is you have a level of offline, which we are always consistently doing, and we have a level of online. So to kind of paint a metaphor that I always paint is we always consistently have 3 poles, right, fishing poles in the water with 3 different baits at all times to increase our chances of catching more fish and different fish, right? And so we think of this as a compounding effect. We probably have one source at a time that's producing the most amount of leads. However, we understand that if we continue to chip away and have all 3 of those poles in the water, they will continue to pay dividends. Sometimes our offline is belly to belly, getting out into the field, talking to our high school coaches, talking to our other skill coaches, and just creating that rapport in those relationships. And it might take 2 years, and then all of a sudden the hat falls, and then all of a sudden we're working with an entire football team for that next off season, right? But the point is that every day we're consistently trying to make an effort to reach out, to have those touch points offline. The other thing too is online is we have 2 different variations of online. We look at it as guerrilla and paid, right? You could think of this as sweat equity, right? Where you got to roll up your sleeves, get out there and do the, things on social media where you manually are doing them. And then you could go the other route where you have equity. You can invest your money, right, into these paid advertisements to be able to then hopefully get an ROI. And if you have your numbers dialed in correctly, you could say it becomes a machine, right? It becomes more predictable in our business. We put $1,000 in, we get $2,000 out. They're on a monthly recurring, and then I get $2,000 a month or whatever it is based on your lifetime value of the customer. So you always want to make sure that you have to have some structure of these 3 things going on at all times. And when you get dialed in on your plays, just like in a playbook, that's what we call our tactics and strategies for as far as marketing. And there's a plethora of different tactics and strategies that you could do within each of these 3 categories. And then what you do is you simply rotate them. Just like a play in a football playbook. You don't, just because that's your bread and butter, you don't run that 10 times in a row. You have to rotate these other things in that makes that strong one more effective, right? So when you do call that play, right, you've had this other ones that set that one up, okay? And so from a marketing calendar perspective, we're rotating through these tactics and strategies, but all 3 poles are in the water at the same time. And if you're doing this and you're believing in the compounding effect of like And so instead of just going all in on one specific thing for the next 2-3 months, completely drying it out, right? And then all of a sudden you try to flip to the next thing and figure out what can I do. It's a matter of having these three, getting efficient at each three, making sure that all three poles are in the water at all times, and then consistently rotating them through each quarter so that you can continue to garner an endless flow of leads. And again, some are going to produce, some aren't, different times of the year, and that's where you kind of start to figure out exactly when it is that you need to run what plays, right? And just like you are an offense or defensive coordinator. So that's the biggest thing that I want to be able to share with you guys. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, going different directions, but these are some of the principles that I talk about that we're having amazing success with our coaches in our business group, business mentorship group. If you're a coach and you're interested in kind of learning more about this, you could give us a shout, DM us on Overtime Athletes, or just give us a shout somewhere. You know, you can connect with us down below. There's a link. But yeah, I hope this is able to help you guys out. I think there's two main big principles is you don't have a strong enough offer. You have to have a strong enough lead magnet. And number two, you have to believe in the compounding effect of little efforts every single day will continue to add up like you're laying brick by brick. And you got to make sure that you're doing it in three different fashions of generating those leads, which is offline, belly to belly, online, whether that be through social media or paid advertisement, and in-house, which is utilizing the base that you currently have, being able to maximize them to bring more of their friends and their teammates in to overall grow your gym. So I hope that helps. I'll catch you guys next time.